Hi there, my name is Assunta Simoloka. I'm a health and wellness educator. So I raise awareness about how our daily habits like exercise, diet, sleep, and stress management affect our health. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the steps that you can take to prevent, manage, and possibly reverse type 2 diabetes. And the medical test that gives a more accurate view of your diabetes status than simply measuring blood sugar, which is merely a symptom. So I will start by providing a simple explanation as to what type 2 diabetes is. So let's dive in.
So let's begin by looking at what diabetes is. So diabetes occurs when blood sugar is abnormally high due to the body's failure to keep blood sugar under control. Insulin is the hormone that regulates blood sugar level by moving sugar from the blood into body cells. When there is more sugar than the body needs, insulin helps store any surplus sugar in the liver for later use. So basically, in a diabetic environment, sugar is stuck in the bloodstream because it cannot find its way into body cells where it's needed for various vital purposes. As a result, body cells starve in the midst of plenty, while sugar rises too high in the bloodstream. Now, type 2 diabetes happens when the body produces insulin, but insulin doesn't work well enough to control blood sugar. Type 2 diabetes is a condition that develops over a long time. In the beginning stages, insulin becomes resistant or insensitive. Therefore, the amount of insulin required to process blood sugar increases. Consequently, the pancreas has to produce larger than normal amounts of insulin in order to maintain healthy blood sugar levels. With persistent insulin resistance, the pancreas eventually fails to produce enough insulin to control blood sugar, ultimately resulting in diabetes. So here are some common symptoms of type 2 diabetes. Feeling very thirsty even after drinking enough water. Urinating too often. Slow healing cuts and wounds. Too much appetite. Always feeling tired. Continuous itchiness in the genital area. Numbness and tingling in toes, hands, feet, and arms. Please note that sometimes type 2 diabetes may not exhibit any of these symptoms, and getting tested is the only way to know whether or not you have the disease. The very process of developing type 2 diabetes has a tremendously harmful impact on the body as a whole. And this kind of damage just continues to get worse with time. So here are some health complications related to type 2 diabetes. Heart disease, kidney disease, erectile dysfunction, and cognitive decline. Cognitive function relates to important mental skills like learning, attention, memory, and problem solving. The good news is that a very healthy lifestyle can significantly minimize all these health complications. So here is an important question about type 2 diabetes? Is type 2 diabetes reversible? Whether type 2 diabetes is reversible depends on how far the disease has progressed. During early stages of type 2 diabetes, the probability of reversing the disease is very high, but chances of doing so get slimmer and slimmer as the disease progresses. In this case, the best outcome is keeping diabetes well managed and avoiding health complications related to diabetes. And let me just say something important. What I believe is that this whole process of reversing type 2 diabetes or managing the disease, it should be done in a way that is helpful and not harmful to health. Look, it doesn't make sense to reverse type 2 diabetes only to have that same plan you used to reverse the type 2 diabetes put you at risk for another serious health problem. How are you healthier? Since type 2 diabetes arises from poor insulin function, also known as insulin resistance, the key to preventing, reversing, or managing type 2 diabetes is improving insulin sensitivity, or insulin's ability to control blood sugar. Insulin resistance is the underlying cause of type 2 diabetes, whereas high blood sugar is simply a symptom. So dealing with diabetes sustainably aims at tackling the root cause instead of merely controlling the symptom. What this means is that a viable plan does more than simply monitor blood sugar. Evaluating insulin resistance is just as important. And as you will learn later in this lesson, a simple blood sugar test and A1C test only focus on measuring blood sugar. They don't say much about insulin resistance, and a separate test is needed for assessing insulin resistance. When insulin is highly sensitive, this is just the way insulin behaves. When it's highly sensitive, it takes a small amount of insulin and time to process a substantial amount of blood sugar. On the other hand, when insulin is insensitive, a large amount of insulin and a longer period of time are needed to process that same amount of blood sugar. Now, low levels of insulin are associated with good health, whereas the presence of high levels of insulin in the body is actually very harmful to health.
Now, here is an important question. What can be done to prevent, manage, or reverse type 2 diabetes?
Now, all it takes to prevent, reverse, or manage type 2 diabetes is adopting a healthy lifestyle. What you need to understand is that type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and other chronic illnesses are actually due to unhealthy habits. So to regain good health requires following healthy habits. They improve insulin sensitivity, resulting in optimal blood sugar levels. So the key aspects of a healthy lifestyle are following a healthy diet, exercising regularly, getting proper sleep, and managing stress. All these are important, and let me just go into greater detail about diet and exercise. I want to talk about diet so that I don't leave you wondering what exactly I mean by a healthy diet. Because the truth is, there are so many contrasting versions of what people believe to be a healthy diet. So here is the way I see it. To know what a healthy diet is like, you just have to look at what the healthiest people eat. The healthiest populations on the planet are also known as blue zone populations. They live long, healthy lives, experiencing the lowest known rates of diabetes, obesity, cancer, heart disease, and other chronic conditions. So, what do these healthiest people eat? Studies conducted on the healthiest populations show two outstanding characteristics of eating habits. Number one, diets are very high in a variety of unprocessed plant foods. Secondly, diets contain very little or no meat. What's also interesting to note is that these healthy people, they follow this same diet structure regardless of geographical location or culture. I also want to point out that these diets, they are very rich in carbs, but these are unprocessed carbs, not processed carbs. I'm sure you have come across some advice out there that you have to avoid carbs in order to fight off type 2 diabetes. But there is a problem with this kind of advice. All carbs are not the same. There are good carbs and bad carbs. The good carbs like whole grains, unpeeled potatoes, which come from unprocessed plant foods, are actually very, very helpful for type 2 diabetes, and they also promote good health in general. Unhealthy carbs, on the other hand, come from highly processed foods like white flour products, polished rice, and added sugar. Now, there are those who argue that there is no difference between unprocessed carbs and processed carbs. But if you look at health outcomes of people who eat unprocessed carbs and those who eat processed carbs, it's clear that these carbs aren't the same, because health outcomes among people who eat unprocessed carbs are vastly different compared to populations whose diets are known to be high in processed carbs. Blue zone diets, for instance, are high in unprocessed carbs, and they produce the healthiest people we know. On the other hand, people following modern diets high in processed carbs have the highest known rates of type 2 diabetes and chronic diseases in general. Okay, let's talk about exercise. Staying physically active is a must-do because exercise boosts circulation. Circulation is really a big issue because type 2 diabetes is known to lead to poor circulation, and this results in serious health complications like heart disease, blindness, and amputation. Exercise is also very effective for improving insulin sensitivity. A major reward for adopting healthy habits is that a healthy lifestyle has an extensively broad positive effect. These same healthy habits that prevent type 2 diabetes also happen to be effective for reversing type 2 diabetes as well as managing the disease. What's more, those same healthy habits fight off obesity and other chronic conditions. So you can see just how healthy habits are beneficial to the whole person, not just one specific health condition.
Now that we know what steps to take to prevent, manage, or reverse type 2 diabetes, is measuring blood sugar alone enough to tell us which direction we are moving as far as defeating type 2 diabetes?
So, how do you know whether you have reversed type 2 diabetes or simply just gotten rid of the symptoms? What medical tests do you need to do to know for sure that you have reversed type 2 diabetes? Remember, tackling type 2 diabetes requires fixing insulin resistance because that's what causes high blood sugar. The problem with the blood sugar and A1C tests is that they only measure the level of blood sugar. They don't say anything about the factors leading to that blood sugar level. Is blood sugar normal because you haven't eaten any carbs, or is it because healthy carbs were eaten and insulin has been effective at controlling blood sugar? This information is missing completely. Therefore, it gives a very limited view of what is really going on behind the scenes. The glucose tolerance test is what you need to get a broader view because it explains how much insulin and time it takes to process a certain amount of blood sugar. If the amount of insulin and time it takes to process a certain amount of blood sugar are higher than normal, then insulin resistance still exists, even though blood sugar reading may indicate normal blood sugar level. So here is a recap of what's been covered in today's video. Type 2 diabetes is reversible, especially in early stages of the disease, but doing so gets harder and harder as the disease progresses. A healthy lifestyle entails getting regular exercise and following a diet rich in a variety of plant whole foods. Unprocessed and processed carbs are not the same because health outcomes of people eating these two different types of carbs differ vastly. And also, the glucose tolerance test is what you need to evaluate the status of insulin function. The blood sugar test doesn't give you this information. Thank you so much for your time. My hope is that you found the information in this video helpful and that taking these steps will result in better health. I wish you the best of health and I hope to see you again. Bye.